So you're signed to death row. You're there for a couple years, and then you have Suge remove you from the website. And how long is that time period from you being removed from the website to actually, linking up with G Unit and 50 and everybody?
It's the time of space between me stepping away from Suge Knight and the row and the gap of time that I encountered the G Unit crew. It's hard for me to guesstimate, but it wasn't that much time from what I can recall. I don't know if it was a matter of months. I know it wasn't a year. It was a matter of months, if not a couple or a few months. And it was totally ironic. It wasn't like it was through any steps I was taking on purpose, any connections that I already had that I knew I was going to be able to pursue. It was just totally random occurrence that I took it upon myself to step away from one situation, which would have been an extremely difficult thing to navigate had I encountered these guys and then tried to make the separation afterward. It would have been a whole totally different situation. So it took a lot of courage personally at that time of my life to even step away because, like I say, I named all the people I worked with and became familiar with alongside Suge Knight, and it was just hard to perceive with the resources I had that I was gonna somehow be able to get to a level beyond that or equal to that. So it was like, you was kind of like challenged with hold on to this as long as you can versus step away and see what else can be available, even though there was nothing tangible to look toward or look at or reach toward. So that was really a time of like just personal faith, like fuck it, I know this is big, but it's not serving me and I gotta have the courage to step away. So the fact that I encountered another situation that would be considered a step up so shortly thereafter, it was a confirmation in my personal life to trust a certain gut instinct that I have that I can't discuss with nobody. Nobody else can ever hear it, see it, or feel it. I don't care how many strategies you're presenting me with, how much intelligence and knowledge. I have a certain thing that I follow that I don't even know what it is.
When you say it like that, man, that is pretty gutsy, I believe.
Yes.
Is a good word for it. You left death row, which at the time they weren't, the old school death row, but
compared to what I was familiar with, it was like everything still.
Right.
You could be right there with Suge today in the parking lot, and the gate open. It's Sylvester Stallone to drive in a Carmageddon by itself. Like, so you still was around that element of life to where the potential of something popping was still present, and it was hard to step away from that to just back to regular. That was something. But it reminds me of a quote I seen from Steve Harvey that really impressed me. He was sitting down having a conversation with a young lady in a very like intimate setting. They were both in like small like chairs. And I don't know what the conversation was about, but it led him to tell her this. He was like, and when he said it, he got choked up and almost cried before he can get this small piece of conversation out. He said, if you stand on the cliff and you don't want to get cut up and bruised and hurt, if you don't jump, you're safe. You will never break a bone. You will never get no bumps or bruises. He say, but if you don't jump, you'll never soar. You'll never get a chance to soar. And before he can get that whole complete thought out, he was like choked up and crying. And at that little small expression, we see how successful he is. I just saw him visualize a time or times in his life where he had to get to that point that we just described. There's times in your life when you achieving to do things that are beyond the norm and even in normal life, sometimes you got to take a chance and take a risk that you cannot quite quantify or equate to success before you do it. And sometimes I think those are some of the most precious moments in life, when you take that chance that you can't quite describe why you took it and it turns out right. Yeah, that's how you make great memories.
Yeah, that's real shit, man. That was pretty, yeah, that was definitely gutsy, man. And okay, so I remember we talked about this before. You kind of linked up through Young Buck.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you end up in the club video shoot?
In the club? I don't think I was at the In the Club video shoot.
Okay, there was a video shoot.
Disco Inferno, maybe?
Was it Disco Inferno?
Oh, okay. Why you mentioned the video shoot? Because maybe I could help you.
There was a situation where Suge showed up to the video shoot.
I've never seen Suge around G Unit ever. So I wasn't around. I think that's pre me.
Oh,
I've
okay.
seen little shit about that on the internet where somebody supposed to grab the gun and shit showed up. I don't know nothing about none of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've never. That's what I'm saying. I feel so fortunate that I never encountered G Unit when I was friendly with Suge, because I'm not the type of nigga that would have been comfortable probably jumping ship and then being trying to be cool with some niggas I had tripped on or had an encounter with. I probably would have rolled that little energy out.
Okay, I
That's why I
see.
feel like it was a very important thing that I took the time to step away from Suge, not knowing that I was gonna meet these cats. And then I met them, so it's like I'm glad it went that way. Cause just ironically enough, my situation ceased with 50 Cent, and he never had the courage to have a conversation with me similar that I had with Suge to cease doing whatever it was we were doing. It never happened. There's never been a moment of capiche, never. So it was a long time of limbo of figuring it out when the numbers stopped being as receptive to where they stopped being receptive at all. That was a gap of time to where you realize, oh, this shit ain't really finna get back. So, that would be the only thing that would have been required for a respectable departure was him just to announce it. You feel me? Which was never done.